Welcome back, 93.7 The Ticket, to another episode of Niko at Night. And although right now it is not nighttime, today is a very special episode, as today the featuring athlete is going to be me, myself, and I. So, as you guys know, I started this little channel. I started this segment, Niko at Night, to give recognition to athletes who aren't recognized as much as football, volleyball players, etc. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the origin of that, myself, how I got to the University of Nebraska, how I ended up getting this position here at this station, and why you guys should keep on following me and throughout the journey. Because, one day we're all planning on hoping that this thing becomes bigger than what it actually is right now, and hoping that we can start a fund, start something to where we're actually giving recognition to these athletes. All besides just this video, besides just this platform, we want it to be bigger and better than ever before. And as all things and as all successful people have started, it just started with the dream and then putting in the work and day by day and letting it grow. So for starters who don't know me, my name's Niko. I am from Illinois. I am a junior here at the university. I'm also a track and field athlete. I specialize in the 800-meter run and occasionally the 4x400-meter run. So the way I got to this university is very untraditional as compared to other athletes. A lot of other athletes, the way they got here, they were being scouted all the way from their freshman and sophomore, even junior year. But for me, I was a bit of a late bloomer. I was pretty, I'd say, ahead of my class my sophomore year in the sport of track and field. But I didn't have the offers to go with it. My conference was pretty big, so I was well respected, but just never had the D1 offers. And my sport is very different from football and different other sports. My sport, the money is not really there. There's only 12 scholarships for, I believe, an 80, 90 man roster, and it's split up between track and cross country. So think about all those men who need a track and field scholarship and are fighting for that. And so when it comes to university, it's much more of a risk to invest in athletes such as myself, such as an 800-meter runner. When they give scholarships to these athletes, they're hoping that they can be the jack of all trades. They can go in, they can run the 4, the 8, the 2, the 1. That's the coach's best case scenario, and sometimes it isn't like that. So for me, it was definitely a risk, and I knew it was going to be like this. So let me go ahead and tell you guys how I ended up getting the scholarship. So for those of you who don't know, during 2021, 2020, there in the state of Illinois, you were not allowed to play football. And we were the only state in the Midwest where they literally vetoed playing football in the fall. So they pushed our football season back to the spring. And I was the starting quarterback for my high school at the time. I've been playing football all the way since the 6th grade, all the way up until my junior year of high school. I was the starting quarterback for my team my sophomore year, my junior year, and leading into my senior year, I had to make a very tough decision for me and my teammates. I knew that football was going to get pushed to the spring. So I took it upon myself to join cross country because I believed that it was going to help me for track, in which it did. But the problem with that was football was going to continue in the spring. As I said before, all the other schools in the Midwest played their football season in the fall, and obviously it was monitored due to COVID, but mine was pushed all the way to the spring. And for those of you who don't know, football and track in the spring, they're the same season. The reason I did football was because it was in the fall. It took the tension off for when I did track in the spring, but for it being at the same exact time period, it came decision time because neither of my coaches wanted to share me between football practice and track practice. There was talks and a strategy going around on how we could make the two work. But for me personally, I did not want to sacrifice my body on the football field and then go out and run an 800 the next day. That's not reasonable to me. I didn't think it was fair. So I had to make the decision of leaving my teammates and pursuing what I believe was best for me in my future. And that decision was getting that track scholarship, putting all my time and energy into track. And the best part about it was the track scholarship was not by any means guaranteed. And I basically had to bet on myself, risk on myself, that in this period of COVID where nobody else is watching, I wasn't able to meet with any of my coaches. I was not able to do any official training. Everything I did had to be on my own. So that's what I did. That is the decision that I made, was that I was going to bet on myself. I was going to go pursue that track scholarship in a very untraditional way. And the reason I use that word untraditional is because not every single kid has the opportunity to compete unattached in track and field. Most of the time when you compete, it's going to be with the team. But I ended up deciding to travel across the state of Illinois to different states and compete unattached. In Chicago, I believe January, I decided to go and compete unattached in the 800, and I ended up running a 154, breaking my indoor school record. And I thought all that training I put in December, quitting football, it was going to be, oh my gosh, this is my moment. I got my scholarship locked in. And then it wasn't. It was the U.S. number 6 time in the entire nation. I was within the top 10, and still nobody called my phone. No D1 coaches, not even D2 or D3 coaches. And I remember very vividly, I got a call from a JUCO college telling me that, look, Niko, I think you should pursue our university. I don't think that there's going to be any money for you. I don't think technically that you're good enough at this point, and that the situation was just too unique to the point to where they didn't think I was going to get a scholarship and I should just commit to a community college. And I said no. I was frustrated. I was pissed that he even said those words to me. And it's funny looking back at it now, because I remember being so mad at the moment, but I just used that as motivation to keep on pursuing my dream, because I knew that there was something bigger out there for me, for my goals and where I wanted to be at this point in my life. So I kept on training. I signed up for another race about 3 weeks later. And the funny thing about this race was that it was a 600-meter run. A 600-meter run is not a very traditional race in the high school realm. It's very traditional in the college for indoor meets in the Midwest. So I signed up for my first ever 600, and a big story headline is coming out about this kid from Wisconsin. I believe he was a freshman at the time, and I was a senior. And they basically put the story to whereas this kid, I think his PR was like a second better than mine, and they're like Schultz versus this kid's name. His name was Nathan Cumberbatch, and a very respectable athlete. Even to this day, he's an amazing athlete. And I just remember being so frustrated that they were even comparing me, a senior, to a freshman, even though he was a freshman sensation. I was just so frustrated that I didn't have the scholarship, that they're making this clickbait story out of me just to get some entertainment. And I'm like, dude, there is absolutely no way I'm going to let this opportunity slip by. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to win this race. Now, the state record for the 600-meter run at the time was 121, okay? And I had and I had no knowledge to where I was fitness-wise. I mean, a 154 and the 800, I could have guessed I was around like a 123, maybe a 122. But the analysts for this race were predicting that we were going to break the state record. Now, I don't like to think about that in the future. I just like to go in, compete, do my absolute best, worry about the time after I cross the finish line, not even think about it. So I show up to this race absolutely locked in. I got my headphones in. I'm excited. Don't know what to expect, though. Going in there with an open mind. Only intention there is to win and to somehow obtain a scholarship. So I line up for the race, and I get out, and I pass the kid we talked about earlier, Nathan, instantly. And I'm like, all right, we're looking good, we're looking good. And the next thing you know, this kid from Boston out of nowhere just ends up passing me within the first lap. And I'm like, who is this kid? And he wasn't even on my radar. Nobody even planned for him to be here. Anyway, he's leading me through the first lap. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit behind this guy and chill. First lap goes through. I'm still chilling. I'm feeling great. Second lap comes by. I'm feeling absolutely amazing. And this kid, he has some distance on me, but I knew that I have a really strong kick at the end of my race. So what I did was I stuck behind him, outkicked him the last, I believe, 90 meters of the race, end up winning the race. But the thing was, right when I crossed the line, the screen where it shows all your times and the results of your race ended up going black. And the announcers and everyone in the stands, my parents, everybody watching was going absolutely crazy. They didn't even know what they just witnessed because apparently the time was fast. And then as soon as the system loads and gets back onto the screen, it says a minute 19. And so a minute 19 anywhere is respectable. I mean, those are respectable times even in college. But for me, myself, I did not plan to run a 119 that day. The only thing I planned for was to win and to try to obtain a scholarship. Those are the only two things going through my mind that day and the month prior. And so as soon as I run that 119, I kid you not, I pick up my phone and there is 6 different messages from 6 different universities. One of them being Iowa, another one was Penn State, another one was Illinois, and obviously the fourth being Nebraska. And I think probably 2 other D2 or D3 school coaches saying, oh my gosh, what did I just watch? So I have options at this point, and I have leverage, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, so it took me running a race that I've never ran my entire life, breaking a state record that I didn't even know existed in order to get their attention. And I had it. I accomplished every single thing that I needed to get done. I got it done. And it was just the best feeling so far up to this point in my sports career. I think the only thing that's ever come close to that was when I ran the 5th all-time mark indoor here at Nebraska. But I think the story within itself is just it's very unique. It's something I try to base my life off every single day. I live my life to the point where discipline is owed like rent. It's owed every single day. And the more you let it slip away, the further away you're going to get from there. And I see myself as a very disciplined individual. Sometimes it's my biggest strength, but also my biggest weakness, because I overthink a lot. I think about everything I want to do and everything I want to accomplish, and I kind of drive myself a little bit crazy. So finding the in between and finding that balance for me is the difficult part. It's not a thing to where am I going to give 100% effort. It's I got to know when to give 100% effort. I do suffer from burnout. I feel like later on in my track and field seasons because I just trained so hard early on because of how good I want to be, and it's hard because track and field is very taxing on the body. But this is the life that I signed up for. The reason that I'm even here is by taking a chance and taking a risk on myself, and I just think that's awesome. I've always grew up being the underdog. I kind of love being the underdog in a way because I know that the work that I put in does not go unnoticed. Even when nobody is seeing and even when nobody is watching or even believing in me, I know at the end of the day that I have myself and I have my own best interest. So that's how I ended up at this university, and the way that I ended up working for this station is my freshman year. As I told you before, the burnout thing, I ended up getting really injured because I just went way too hard, way too fast early on in my season. I didn't really know what to expect at the college level. I was going very hard. I ended up getting a stress fracture in my leg. I was out for 5 months. And so the first thing I did and first thing I questioned myself was, what's my purpose? And why am I here at this university? And obviously it was to run track, but I'm on crutches. I have a boot on my leg. I can't walk around. I can't even run. So what's next? What's in store for me? So from there, I learned how to edit. I got into podcasts. I really enjoy podcasting. I enjoy talking to people and communicating with individuals. So I learned how to edit. I taught myself how to edit YouTube videos, put up podcasts. And one of my podcasts ended up reaching the likes of this station that you're currently watching this on, 93.7 The Ticket. And I ended up getting hired on as a marketer and an editor. So now I edit other people's podcasts on top of running my own show here. Obviously comes the name Niko at Night. So that was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago of when I started the podcast, and I got hired onto the station about 6 or 7 months ago. And so this is how Niko and I started. So this here is what I would call the baseline video of, where I am currently and how I got here. And hopefully I'm looking back at a few years from now and I'm able to share another story about how I got to the next point in my life, how I got to do something spectacular that I don't even know what it is yet. And I believe that's all life is about, all that life has to offer. It's about setting goals, accomplishing the goals, and looking back and just reflecting, being like, wow, like that's super cool. I'm super glad I got to experience that. So that is what I have in store for you guys for this episode for the week. I interviewed amazing athletes this week. If you guys want to go ahead and check out this link, I have a playlist set on this YouTube. If you guys want to go back and watch all the different unique athletes I interview, from tennis to soccer to bowling. There's really different variations of athletes out there. So this was the Niko at Night podcast. I hope you all are enjoying this, and I hope that you all have an amazing day. See ya. This is 93.7 The Ticket. Niko, out.